Excellent.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about John Nathan Turner, the producer at the time, your impressions of what kind of relationship y'all had, and if he asked you for feedback, did you have any kind of input on how the show was going? And I was just curious about what was probably the craziest idea that he presented to you, and kind of how did y'all get along and manage to work together so brilliantly and so well?
I was very, very fond of John. We got on really well from the first time we met, really, and we shared a sense of humour, and he was passionate about the programme. Without him, if he hadn't been at the BBC in the late 70s and 80s, the programme would have faded away much earlier. The powers that be in the upper ranks of the BBC were faintly embarrassed to be doing science fiction programme. Now they're falling over themselves to do them, because science fiction has moved from being niche to being mainstream with kind of niche overtones. But they wouldn't have made programmes like Life on Mars or Goodnight Sweetheart, all of which rely on time travel as the base of the story. They wouldn't have made that in the 80s. But now they've realised that it's a market which is one they can tap into. They wanted to kill off Doctor Who several times, and nobody wanted to take over a programme that other people had made successful. So thank God John stayed. He single-handedly brought it over here, because he was the one who... I had to go to a convention before I'd even seen the first script, let alone filmed anything. I was appointed as doctor, and then within a couple of weeks I was on a plane going over to Florida to a convention to be introduced as the new doctor, because John was really keen to open up the market here, which he did very, very well. And he was the one who got us going to conventions, because he wanted the programme to have a wider audience. He'd love, he really would love what's happened to it. He might have been a bit sad that he wasn't in charge anymore, but it's a shame that he died before it came back superbly with Russell T Davies, who, funny enough, is like a double-sized version of John Nathan Turner. Russell T is another, excuse me, another extrovert, a big extrovert, who loves the programme. Fortunately, he had a pedigree with the programmes he'd done before in England that enabled him to say, they said, what do you want to do? And when he said Doctor Who, they had to let him. And then, boy, have they not regretted it. Because now, of course, they also understand merchandising. Which when I was doing it, there was a couple of stuff and nobody was interested much. Now, woohoo!
It is amazing how the show has grown to just amazing heights, and it is wonderful. Yeah. There is just something magical. As I talked about, I grew up with Star Trek, but there is just something absolutely fascinating about the Doctor and the beauty of it and the history that raises it, it doesn't burden it. So, yes. We have time for 2 more questions.